Welcome everybody to this Getting to Member session. I am Warwick Merry. I am the president, Warwick Merry CSP, president of PSA, as many of you already know. I am, as I said before, I'm going to mute you all. And when you have a question or something, feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question, or type it in the chat box, and I will incorporate that into the conversation with what's going on. So this evening, it occurs to me when I was talking to different people that they would say to me that their biggest issue is getting to the 50 grand. You know, they have the systems, they're committed to the ethics, they have the processes, but just breaking that $50,000 barrier was a challenge for people. So what I wanted to do was show you 3 different ways that you can get to 50 grand. And these are not the only ways. There are multiple different ways of doing it. But this is just 3 straightforward ways. And I also wanted to show you what you need to do to get there. So now what I will have you to remind me, as per usual, there's lots of great information on this call. And as my way of saying thank you for being here this evening, I have a freebie for people who are on the call. So that will be announced after we terminate the recording towards the end. So hang around to the end for the freebie. It's good. You're going to want it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and we'll go to here. And I'm going to talk to you about the 3 ways to get to 50 grand spreadsheet. So there's 3 different ways. This is a template that I am going to make available for people. So I will show you at the end how you can access this. So if you're thinking to yourself, oh, I'd like that spreadsheet, not a problem. I'll even try to make it easy for you in that you only change the yellow cells. That's right. So when you get this spreadsheet, it's just the yellow ones that you change. So the first element is getting to 50 grand. By the way, if you're the kind of person who wants to set yourselves goals and stuff with this spreadsheet, you can change the 50 grand. You can make it $75,000 if you want to. But I'm just going to focus on the $50,000 because that's the basic requirement for the getting to member. So the first way is to purely as a speaker. Now, we've spoken over the last couple of months about what is it you want to speak about, how you're going to sell yourself. So I just wanted to crunch a few numbers for you. So let me just work you through this. And then I want to go back to the chat and then have some conversations around what this might mean for you. So basically, you want to get the 50 grand. What's your fee? What do you charge? For those of you who haven't seen it, I wrote a post in the PSA group about fees that gave a breakdown as I see it, it's not gospel, but it's just as I see the fee quandary about what is a fair fee and how much should I charge. So if you are charging $2,000, naturally what that means is that you've got to do 25 presentations to get to 50 grand. That's a very simple calculation. You could probably do it yourself. And if you charge 2,500, it'll be $20 presentations you've got to do. Winnow was talking about a couple of months ago about how you could quite easily just go and speak at the local real estate agent or car dealership on a Monday morning for $500. And you could do that, but it would mean that you'd have to give 100 presentations. But that wouldn't be too hard. So let's just go back and look at it. If you were to charge $2,000, that would mean you'd have to do 25 presentations to get there. So that means and I use 10 months when I'm calculating a year because December and January are typically very quiet, or I'm going to have 2 months off to do a project or create new intellectual property at some stage. So what it means is you've got to do, say, 2.5 on average, 2.5 presentations a month, which is about half a presentation a week. Now, the reason I want to break it down is because I want to show you, it's very easy to say, oh, I need to do 25 presentations. Yay, 25, that's easy. But I want to break it down and show you the amount of work that you have to do to actually get the presentations. So if we're talking about, well, hey, there's the screen. Well, you tell me, how many calls, the next thing I want to talk about is how many sales calls does it take to actually get someone to buy a presentation? Now, for some people, they're not very good on the phone, so it might take 50. Others are brilliant, and it might take 10. I don't know. So you let me know what you think. What is it for you? Feel free to unmute yourself and tell me, and then mute yourself again. And it's it's completely up to you. So what I wanted to show here is that if you want to get these 25 presentations in the next 12 months or 10 months, what that means is, well, if you need to do, let's say, 20 phone calls to get a presentation, that means you need to be doing 50 calls a month, which means 12 and a half a week, which is about 2.5 a day. Now, I know I went to the Platform Professional Summit late last year, and Keith Abrams said that he does 8, somewhere between 7, could be 8, 7 or 8 contacts a day. Now, this is not cold calls. This is the people that he knows are on his database, and it can be as simple as, hey, thinking of you, what's going on? And it can be a text, it can be an email, but his commitment is every business day he will send out 8 contacts. Up until when I broke my leg, I was doing 5 a day because I just thought, if I'm doing 5 contacts a day on my database, I've got a lot of people on my database, and there's some that I'll do off my database, doing a couple of cold calls. It's got to help. So to get to the 50 grand as a speaker, once you understand what your fee is and how often you need to do that many presentations, then what you're really talking about is, what do I have to do on a daily basis to get me there? How do I make this serious? Now, I'm probably talking very basic stuff, but it really is looking at, what do I have to do to get me there? So I'm really interested. What do you think about that as a basic model number 1, shall we say, as a keynoter? Is that possible? Is that daunting? What thoughts do people have about it? What issues do people have about it? What problems do people have about it? I know there are a few people, and I'm just going to keep talking until someone either puts something in the chat box or says something or asks a question, because it's all about how do we get you there? Because there's a lot of people that you've got essentially under 18 months, and it's going to come a lot quicker than what you think. And for some people are like, okay, I'm almost there. So it's a lot. How do we get there? And I've just put sales calls. Louise quite validly says you can do showcases, you can do articles, you can do, whatever. Kevin has said that getting the problem as a startup, getting the database. And it's like, if you don't have a database, that's fine. Just pick, I think we talked about it last month when we were talking about the telesales. Who's your target market? If it is that I'm going to speak to accountants and accountant groups or lawyer groups, or great, get the online phone pages, look at who's a lawyer organization that's got more than 50 partners or whatever. And yes, as Chris says, it's daunting, but it's like you get to sit at home and go, I wish I had, or you do the work and say, look what I've got, or look what I'm working to get. So it really is looking at, how do I get that exposure out there? Sitting back and waiting for the phone to ring is not really as much fun as you'd like it to be. It gets very lonely. There's other people who'll use Facebook ads, or you might use interactions on LinkedIn. There's some people who use LinkedIn incredibly well. I'm not one of those people. I dabble around the edges. There's a comment from Gil about getting paid presentations versus training. That can be challenging, because you're right. Sometimes you are selling a week or a half day or a couple of days. But then it's up to you to look at what is it that you want to do and how you can afford to sell that. But the question I would have for you is, if you want to speak, what are you doing to get the paid gig? Lisa's comments about looking after your current and past clients. I think, what's the stat? It's 5 times easier to get a sale from an existing customer than it is to get a new customer. Yet a lot of our focus is on the new customers. So cool. All right. Thank you for that sort of commentary and et cetera. Let's go back and have a look at model number 2. Dun, dun, dun. Sharing screen, going to Excel. Model number 2. So if you are not the kind of person who does programs like this, maybe you're not a speaker, maybe you're the kind of person that you do open programs. And I know we've got a few open program people on the call. So then you've got to do the other. By the way, I love Excel spreadsheets. I just need to put that out there, hence all the Excel spreadsheet today. So if you are the kind of person who does open programs and you run different programs with your intellectual property and you're looking at getting different people on board, so you want to get to your 50 grand, then let's say and you'll know your cost per person could be 97, let's say it's 297. That means that, pardon me, you've got to get 168 people paying $297 to get you $50,000. So that means if you have an event where your average number of attendees is 20, that means you need to do 8 events, which, and as we said, counting 10 months per year, you're looking about 1 event a month. And then you've got to look at what does it take to get that one person to put their bum on the seat. Now, it could be a phone calls. It could be art, and you'll see there's a few things here. There's phone calls, there's articles. You might do free feed-in webinars. I know a lot of people have that business model where they need to do the different feed-in webinars. Maybe you're doing some kind of Facebook click or a cost or a Google AdWords or whatever, and how many clicks does it take and their cost per click. And you need to understand what does that cost to get what I'm after. So this is a very different model, and it's getting harder. I've got to tell you, I'm currently revisiting my business strategy based on, my situation, and looking at the possibility of doing open programs. And I've spoken to a lot of people who've done open programs, and it's hard. It is really hard to get the number of people in the room. And if you do it really well, it's great. We've got a couple of members who do it incredibly well and make a significant amount of money and love what they do and travel a lot and do a few keynotes, but most of their work is this open program with an escalation kind of thing. Tracy, I see you have your hand raised. If you unmute yourself, you can ask me the question and I will happily answer it.
Warwick, define an open program for me, if you would, please.
Yes,
I've been around
certainly.
a couple of decades and I might not know this term.
Yeah, and it's my term. That's where you say, hey, I'm running a workshop on how to be a legend. It's $297. Come for half a day. Book now to avoid disappointment. So to me, it's an open program. It's open to the public.
Yep, great. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. All right. So for this, you really got to look at what's your ascension. So you might have a free thing that then leads to a paid thing, which a short paid thing would then leads to a long paid thing, which might lead to an all week workshop, something like that. And then you've got to crunch the numbers in terms of, okay, well, how do I get there? So it can be challenging to get them on seats. There's a load of these workshops out there. All you got to do is just get on Facebook and just do what you usually do. And if you're like me, you're going to get ads coming up all the time for the latest and greatest, how to master your business, how to be a legend as a speaker, how to do this as a business owner, how to be 2-day program, 3-day program, half an hour program. I get ads for this all the time. There must be some sort of demographic that I'm in that comes up. So it's all about how do I do that? Sorry, I'm just looking at a couple of questions that come in. So your public program is open program, Joe. Yes. Cost per person. I'm talking about, this is because all I care about is revenue. Because the 50 grand is revenue. It's not profit. So all we care about at this stage is what is the cost. What is the cost to them? So what do they pay you? So all right, cool. So it is all about what's the cost per person in terms of coming along. So just be aware that the competition is out there. So you have to make sure you're providing value. And some of those, there was a question there before, but not quite sure how to have that conversation. And it really is, the finding what you talk about and the benefits for the client. You really need to be crystal clear on the value. Pricing is all about an exchange of value. And the programs that seem to be working well, because there's a lot of these programs that people feel conned afterwards because they get the free thing and then they sign up, they get excited, sign up for the next thing, and they don't see the value there. The ones that are doing really well are the ones who are providing a lot of value. So that's running open programs. To be completely honest, I've run a couple of open programs or public programs and done well. And I've run a couple of public programs and lost money. but that's just it's not a path that I had gone down in the past, because there is a lot of extra work that we really need to do about it to make that happen. So, does anyone here do those open programs? I know a couple of you do. Lisa does with some of the storytelling. Karen's does a couple. So Lisa does them every 6 weeks. So there'll be a routine that you no doubt that you would get into. So what's the overall feeling for those who you have done it? If you wanted to speak about it, I'd happy to hear. Is it hard? Is it easy? Is it, once you've got the systems, it's fabulous? Are people scared of doing it? This is where you say something. Go on, you know you want to.
Hi there. I think that it's actually quite hard to run workshops, and it takes a huge amount of work. And I just note that the amount of Facebook advertising that's needed is really quite significant, which surprised me a bit.
Yeah, yep. I know Natasha Denman does it very, very well, and Helen Mitras, I think her name is. And there's someone else, the Meetup Queen. Oh, her name escapes me. They all do it very well, and they have a system and a process that they follow that continues to get people through. I know Natasha is so committed to her process that she is they've built a room on the house that's the meeting room, so they don't have to worry about paying for venue or catering or stuff. It's all done at their house. Yeah, Francesco Moir. Thanks, Gil. Francesco does it really well also. So it can be done, and some people do it incredibly well. And there are some, like Keith Abrams, I know he runs an annual, once a year he does his annual kickoff with an open program and gets 150 people or so in the room. And there are other people who do bigger. So it is a model. You've got to work out what's going to work for you. So any other thoughts? Karen has said the marketing is key, consistency and frequency of letting people know the event is on and having a follow-up process to maintain momentum. Yeah. And that's it. It's about keeping people engaged. And it's a delicate balance between keeping people engaged and not becoming a pain in the bum and continually hassling them. So again, it's going to depend on your market and who you're appealing to. All right. So that's model number 2. Let's hit model number 3. Three. Let me use the Queen's English, and that will be far better. All right, model number 3. Dun dun dun. So we've had keynotes, we've had open programs or public programs, and the third model is products. Whee for products! I love products. Products are yummy. Products are great. Now, of course, as far as we're concerned for this any product generated income under our definition has to be where you've spoken and sold products. So in this model, basically what I've done is the top model here is each individual product gets you to 50 grand. The bottom box is you've got a split of your different products that might get you there. And it's quite simply looking at what are the products that you've got out there. And I'm a huge fan of products. Let me just quickly. I'm not showing you these to sell to you. I'm just showing you what I've got. So this is, hang on, I'm just going to stop sharing the screen for a moment because I want to see you all. Okay, here we go. So this is the 12-disc Exhibit Like a Pro pack that I made with another member, Danielle Story. We ran a full-day workshop, had it videoed, and sold this product at that session that people already paid to go to. Then they bought a recording of it, so it paid for itself before we even walked out the door. It was fabulous. Here's another product. It's a 12 CD product. I interviewed pretty much PSA members talking about different elements, how to get more business success. Again, a couple of the people I interviewed said, can we buy some of them at wholesale? And so all the costs of generating this were paid for before I'd actually pressed print. So that was really cool. a couple of just really simple, always get rid of the glare, single CDs that I've created. This one's how to double your return from exhibiting. It was a conversation with a person, and this then sends you to another website to then sign up. And some other stuff you might be able to see. There's about 4 or 5. There's 4 or 5 different CDs over there. The book, so I'm a big fan of product. And in particular, audio CDs. Huge fan of audio CDs. And the reason for it is they are so cheap to make. So cheap to make. And pardon me, you can get one of your PSA friends to give you the introduction. And coming up next, you've got a live program with Louise Karsh telling you all about how to name your next project. Stay tuned. She's live. And then you put the recording on, and at the end, you get your friend to say, if you want more information from Louise, call now. 1-800-Louise is a legend. That's 1-800-Louise is a legend. Or go to louise.com. So you can get that from your friends, create the CD. The cost to get them printed, under $2. Yet people will happily pay $30, $35 for a CD. So, and to send them costs $1. So as a product, they're just sensational. And I know I've run sessions around different parts of the country about how to create product, and I'm happy to share my experience with people on how to do that. And people are still willing to pay for it, even though that we like to listen to podcasts, etc. They will pay for product as well. So I'm a huge fan of, and it's a great way to leverage and bundle. I know when I had my book, when I was doing the launch pack of that, I was able to say, hey, get a copy of the book, I'll pay the postage, get a free CD, sign up to my online course, all worth $359, but today only $35. And so I could, sorry to sound like a radio DJ, but it's like I could sell because I had the bundle of value of these high value, low cost products that I could add into that. So, for you to make money selling books, like, for example, a $30 book, you do need to sell almost 2,000 books, which is not common in this country. I will tell you that much. But what you can do, if you look at the model below here, it is about having a blend of your model. So you could sell 200 books. All you need is 50 people in the room. If you had 100 people in the room, it's not uncommon to sell to 40% of the room if you've got a deal that is a book and a CD kind of thing for $30. An online course, people are happy to pay somewhere between $199 to $300, $499, depending on how much it is. So there are different ways. You could sell access to membership sites, coaching, et cetera, et cetera. So you can sell product as a third way of getting to 50 grand. But let me show you the most common way, and it's the bonus fourth way. That's right, the fourth way to get to 50 grand, and that is, it's a combination of all of them. It's not just the one thing. It's pretty much going to be, you'll do a bit of speaking, you might do a couple of open programs. Maybe it's a webinar that you'll just sell a webinar for $30 to get a bit more of a national aspect, and you might sell a few different products. So I've set up the spreadsheet so that if you want to play with this, you might say 50% of my money comes from speaking, 25% comes from the open programs, and it'll automatically calculate what's left. So that'll be the 25%. And so you can then change your fee to whatever it is. Let's say it's $2,000, and let's say you only need 20 calls to sell a presentation because you're good. And that'll tell you a bit of the information. Here, again, the open program, there's a bit of stuff about that. And again, there's the costs here for the breakdown, where, I've done a breakdown of how much of your different products or whatever. So it's a simple spreadsheet. And so for those of you who want access to the spreadsheet, you can get it. It's a bit.ly link, bit.ly/3ways50K. So if you head there, you'll see it on the screen just here. There's bit.ly/3ways50K. You'll be able to download this spreadsheet, play with it to your heart's content, and do whatever you need to with that. So have a play with that and see what you want to do. But the reality is, it's a combination. I know for me, I track the different areas in my account setup. And I think we talked about this at the very beginning, was when you set up your accounting software, set it up what you want to measure. And I have set up, here's my income that comes from keynotes. This is what comes from emceeing. This is what comes from products. This is what comes from coaching. This is what comes from online membership. And so I can then tell per month or however often I want to where the different income is coming from, so I can see what's working for me, what needs more attention. So I just wanted to really simply put together some ways for you to do it. Here's the thing though, it's really easy to look at the spreadsheet and have a bit of a play around with it and just go, oh yeah, I could do that, I could do this would be great. But the next step really is, okay, now you got to do it. I don't want to get to this time next year and have a whole stack of affiliates and provisional members going, oh, I should have started 3 months ago to try and get my reach the $50,000. So can I implore you to start today, even if it's as simple as going, right, stuff it. I've got a 45-minute webinar. I'm going to charge people $29. And just put it out there and try and sell it, and then I can sell the recording afterwards. It's very simple to do. You can use Try Booking to process, or there's plenty of other ones. Eventbrite's another good one. I like using Zoom like we're doing today. It works for me. It's not a true webinar product, but it seems to work well for me. And the pro version is like $160 or something. And all I do is I'll set up the event on Eventbrite or Try Booking or whatever system, and just have the ID that they've got to click on in the email, so that once they register, they get an email saying click here, and then I've got all their details, and I can send them stuff afterwards, the recording or whatever it is. And also it adds to your database. So whether you're doing a free webinar, which you're then selling something in the back end of, and my thing is always give it a crack. And even if you don't sell anything, who cares? You're practicing. You now know what not to do. You now know, okay, well, maybe I've got to do something a little bit different. You know, talk to someone who already does it and say, what are the top 3 things I need to do when I have to sell from stage, or sell on screen, or sell if I'm doing a value add sell. If you're selling a paid gig, then it's like, okay, what are the events that I want to go to? Who are the people that run these events? Get on the phone. And then when they say, send me some information about yourself, send some information about yourself. And it's, it might not be perfect, but there's a difference between being good and being there. I don't know about you, but there's heaps of speakers and hosts and MCs that I see on the circuit who I am far better than. Let's be honest. You'll see people and go, I'm better than they are. How come they're getting all this work? And how come they're getting paid all this? Oh my God, I do that much better. And it's because they do the work. They might not get the second gig if they're not that good, but they got the first one. And it's because they make the phone calls. It's because they do the work. So, make sure you get out there and doing it. And Gil has said that for webinars, you probably need 4 weeks of marketing lead time. And for face-to-face, you probably need that to be 8 weeks, just as a heads up. So thanks for that, Gil. So, look at what is it that you can start to do today that's going to start generating money to go towards the 50 grand, and count it. Like every couple of weeks, look at, where am I at? Righto, what do I need to do now? This hasn't worked, I'll try that. Oh, that worked really well, I'll do it again. How do I, maybe you'll set up a series of webinars. Stuff, and stuff that people want from you. And just to counteract Gil's argument, Karen has said that she's found webinar lead-in times can be, a week or less. So it just depends. It really just depends. You know your market, you know what works. And if you don't, try something, try 2 weeks. And if you don't get any registrants, great, add another week or try something else. So the comments just come through. What are my thoughts on co-hosting events? Make sure, by that, do you mean that you're hosting an event and you're sending something out to your database to help someone else get access to them? Is that what you're talking about, Lisa? Unmute yourself, Lisa, and jump on and have a chat. Co-presenting is in 2 people on stage at once. If that's what you're talking about, 2 people on stage at once. Yep. Okay, great. Thank you. 2 people on stage at once. You would want to have an excellent relationship with that individual, and you would want to be well rehearsed in what you're doing. If not well rehearsed, have really good guidelines. I've co-presented with a couple of people, and there's some people I do it very well with, and that's because I've known them for a while, and we know that our objective is to make the other person look good. So, for example, when I ran the one-day workshop with Danielle, the Exhibit Like a Pro, we both love the sound of our own voice, and we could quite happily talk over each other, but we knew that that wouldn't come across well. So as soon as the other one started to speak, one of us would stop. Or we would just do what it took to make them look good and honor what they had to bring. So it's not as easy as it looks. There is a reason why awards nights are highly scripted, because sometimes they can go messy very, very quickly. So, it's got to be about making the other person look good and being really aware of it. It is a skill. It is a real skill. And again, the good way to get better at it is give it a crack, give it a shot. Any other questions? That's all I really wanted to present to you this evening, just the 3 different ways and the 4th at the end. Again, don't forget you can get that sheet at bit.ly/3ways50k. All the letters are lowercase. And hang around, though, because I do have the freebie. But before we head off, what questions, what comments, what thoughts, anything else to add? It's quite a simplistic model, but I think it would be worthwhile. So the question is, how would the revenue work with a co-hosted event? Say 2 members of PSA joined up and the session bought in $2,000. Well, if you're doing a revenue split, it'll be $1,000 for you and $1,000 for another person. So that's how it'd be counted. So, yeah. All right. Unless there's any further action, any further comment. Here we go. A lot of free speaking. I'd love to be able to do more paid speaking. Yep. There comes a time when you need to say, no, you have to pay. So it's got to, because people love free speakers, and people who will happily pay for a venue, pay for cater, pay for marketing, but they want the speaker for free. And the best way to do that is to understand yourself that it's like, you know what? People got to pay me. I am worth it. I have something of value to say. So the first sale is always to yourself. If you don't think you're worth charging for, you're never going to get there. So you have to just take a stand. And that means you stop doing the free speaking, or you make a choice and go, righto, I will do 2 free gigs a month. That's it. But the other thing is there has to be a change of value. Yeah, Louise's comment, there's got to be that change of value. So for you, Joe, it's like, okay, they don't have a speaker budget. Fair enough. But what value can you get? At the very least, you're going to want everyone's name and email address. At the very least, you're going to want the opportunity to sell. At the very least, you're going to want a referral to someone who does have it. So it's really looking at what is the value that you can walk away. The question, not sure how to approach those who do have a speaker budget. It's really quite simple. You know how much value that you can provide, so it becomes that, okay, what's their pain, squeeze their pain a bit and then solve their pain, so it's, if you want to make sure, and you can relate it to your social media somehow, saying, look, your team are on LinkedIn. How about you work with them to make sure that they're representing your organization in the best way possible, so that they're representing you the best way possible, so that it's going to add, it's essentially a marketing chain. So, and yeah, as Rachel said, if you're speaking for free, products are great. Back a room, you get to sell. So, yeah. And Lisa's comment: when you say no, they find a budget. So, there's a whole exposure bucks are worthless, and I know people say, "Oh, it's good exposure." You can't go to the supermarket and say, "Hi, I've got 100 exposure bucks I'd like to pay for my credit cards." It's like, no. So, Karen says, one of the statements she uses is, I don't speak for free, but I am open to a value exchange. And I've spoken before, and the value that I wanted was I wanted 3 referrals for paying people who pay for speakers in their network. So, it's good. And as Rachel said, she's done a few talks and wants to put them onto a DVD or online, for sale. So there is definitely value there. It's just looking at what is the value that you can get from it. All right. Don't go away. I'm going to end the recording. Thanks, everybody, for being on the recording this evening, and I look forward to having you next time. But for those of you who are here, hang around. We've got the freebie.